Hi, this is Carl again, and what I'm doing here is creating a second part to the discussion of irregular preterite tense verb endings in Spanish to try to improve upon the discussion and try to make clearer the suggestions which I made in the first part of this video. What I've done is to put together the tabular form which I recommended that students do here as a means of potentially being able to learn a lot more easily the endings of, as I say, irregular preterite tense verb endings in the Spanish language. So what you have here is, as you can see, I'm now showing you the top part of two columns. In the left-hand column, what I've done is to give you the conjugations and the endings of an AR verb, in this case, hablar. Just diverting your attention away for a short while from vine, or from the second word which appears in each box. So in the left-hand column you have, for example, hablé, the first person preterite verb tense ending for I spoke. And then further down, as you can see there, you have the third person singular, he spoke, she spoke, it spoke, you spoke, formal one person, habló. And then in the right-hand column, what you have, as regards the top word in each box, if there are at least two words in each box, you can see there comiste, which is the second person present preterite tense verb ending of the regular ER verb comer. So there we have comiste, you, informal one person, ate. And then further down, as you can see, the top word in each case, once again, you have comimos, we ate, and then the you guys form, the second person plural, or the you guys form, comisteis. And then in the sixth column, the last column there on the right hand side, you have the regular preterite tense verb ending of the same verb comer, so comieron, they ate. Now I mentioned in part one that this is what I call the zigzag technique, and you can see from how I've drawn the arrows going from one column on the left down to another column on the right, and then another zigzag across from right to left onto the third person verb forms, and then another zigzag across once more from left to right. Now looking at the first person plural, or the fourth person, the we form of the verb, and then no more zigzagging as soon as you get to the we form, moving down in the same column to the form for you guys, and then moving down once again to the box which contains the third person plural verb forms for they, and also the ones which correspond to you formal, more than one person. So what we have here as well is, as I say, at the top of any box which contains two verb forms, the word which appears at the top in each case is a verb form with a regular preterite tense ending. However, the second word in each of these boxes is actually the conjugation of an irregular preterite tense verb. In this case, the one which I've chosen to use is, you might be able to recognize the verb infinitive as venir, to come. And so we have in the left hand column there, I came, zigzagging down across to the right, you came, zigzagging across once again to the left, he came, she came, it came, you came, formal one person, zigzagging across from left to right. There we have we came, and then no more zigzagging. At the bottom there, vinisteis, you guys came, and finally, vinieron, they came. So now for the explanation, again the one which I gave in the previous part of this discussion, but as I say, what I want to do is to give you a visual reference rather than just a spoken monologue, to try to make clearer the point which I was trying to make, and also this suggestion as regards an easier means, or what I hope is an easier means for you to be able to learn the endings of verbs which show up irregularities in the preterite tense. So in we're starting at the top here with the I form, and we're in the left-hand column, so we're dealing with the top word with a verb which is an AR verb and which has the regular first-person preterite tense verb ending of an accentuated E, habler. And then, as I mentioned in part 1, if a verb is in fact irregular in the preterite tense, then no accents will be used whatsoever. So you'll notice that as I move in a zigzag formation from left to right and then from right to left, the accents from the first word, if indeed the first word in each box does carry an accent, does in fact disappear from the second word. As you can see there, habler carries an accent, whereas bine does not. No accents on comiste or viniste, but then with the AR verb you have habló with the accentuated O, but again, whilst you do have the O ending for the irregular preterite tense verb vino, the accent mark has disappeared. No accent marks with comimos, no accent marks with vinisteis, and no accent marks with vinieron. So, moving back up once again, this is the zigzag formation, as I did mention in part 1 of this discussion on irregular preterite tense verb forms. Habler, accentuated. Bine, same ending, not accentuated. Zigzagging across. The expected ending of a regular ER verb, and even though biniste is considered to be irregular in the preterite tense, the ending iste remains. So the ending which you are in fact using is the one which you would expect to do so. Zigzagging across once again. Habló with an accentuated O. The same ending being adopted for the irregular preterite tense verb form vino, but the accent mark has to disappear. Zigzagging one more time, and also for the last time, to the we form. Again, the ending now which you're using for the final 3 forms, for the forms of we, you guys, and they, will be the ones which you would also use for regular preterite tense verb endings of ER verbs and IR verbs. In other words, imos, used for both comimos and vinimos. Isteis, used for both comisteis and vinisteis. And finally, comieron and vinieron, they ate and they came. Again, no accent marks are being used there. But what I did point out also in part 1 is that as regards the infinitive, obviously each infinitive has a root. In this case, the infinitive in question of the irregular verb is venir, starting ven, and you do, in fact, with this one have a change in the root from ven switching to vin, which, as you can see, is retained throughout vin in the first person verb box bine, and then again biniste, bin again in bino, binimos, binisteis, and finally vinieron. And although this is in fact a suggestion for a means of learning preterite tense verb endings, obviously it might not work for everybody. I do appreciate that we all have different learning styles, and that some people would arguably just tend to learn these endings by consulting the verbs in tabular form as they would appear in a grammar book, in a grammar reference, or indeed a textbook. But this is just a method which I came across, which I discovered about 2.5 years ago. So if you do find it useful, then obviously that's great. But obviously if you still regard the preterite tense as a bit of a nightmare, which indeed it does prove to be in the Spanish language, then whichever method you choose to adopt, and no matter really how long you take to learn these endings, as long as you're able to find an easy way somewhere along the line of learning these, then obviously you're free to do that. But this is just one suggestion which you might use. Maybe it is rather complicated, and even a little bit more so complicated than the suggestions which I gave for learning the endings of regular preterite tense verb endings. But obviously, as Students of mine have always asked me, why are some verbs in Spanish regular in certain tenses but irregular in others? Well, that's really a question which I've never been able to answer. But as I say, if this method works, then that's great. But if not, then obviously there will be other methods out there. So there you are, the zigzag technique for learning preterite tense verb forms in the Spanish language.